on this edition of the Self-Publishing Show.
It's the biggest high ever to get an email from somebody who says, I was having a bad day and I picked up your book and I started laughing. And I'm like, that is why I do it. And it's been awesome.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers, no more barriers, no one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and first-time author James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome. It's the Self-Publishing Show on a Friday with me, James Blatch.
And me, Mark Dawson.
You're hoodied up like it's the middle of winter and I'm wearing my retro Star Wars t-shirt.
Your shed is probably warm. My office is not warm.
I have an electrical heater that doesn't have a thermostat. It just goes on or off. And I left it on all weekend.
Deliberately, or was that a mistake?
It was a mistake. I was intending to work in the office over the weekend, but I worked in the house because the weather was nasty and I just stayed in the house. And honestly, this morning I'm surprised things haven't melted. My LP collection's in here. Just about survived. It's still boiling now, so I have been wearing just a towel up until this point, but I thought for decency's sake, for people watching on YouTube, I'll wear my Star Wars.
A sleeve?
Enough about the sleeve. I've had a few emails about the sleeve.
Yes.
From curious people. You have to listen to last week to know what that is about. Look, before we do anything else, I want to welcome our new Patreon supporters, people who have gone to patreon.com/self-publishing show, and they have pledged to this podcast as little as $1 an episode, and you get access to the Self-Publishing Formula University, as well as live training and an archive of that live training, as well as lots of other things. So let us welcome Robert M. Kearns from WV in the United States. Where's WV, Mark?
WV.
I think I know this one, but I'm going to leave you to think. Next one is Machelle Hensley, then James Jenkins, Elizabeth Hurley, Charles Livingston, Charles Livingston Easton, I think is his name. It's a good name. And Andrea Gill, possibly Jill, from AE US. These are quite difficult this week. I don't think I know AE.
I don't know either of them.
Well, WV, I think, must be West Virginia.
Oh, yes. Well done. Yeah, AE.
AE. Is there a state called Aesop?
I don't know. That's a weird one. I have to check.
Everyone's shouting, and people email us like a week later saying, I know where AE is, but we've probably looked it up by then.
Keep talking.
We're looking it up now. I'm going to keep talking. Okay, so this is the Self-Publishing Show. In a moment, we are going to talk about some changes to some of the material that we put out there into the wilderness. Some of the stuff a lot of it's for free, like this podcast, and lots of the stuff Tom does. It is AE.
You should know this.
Have I been there?
Armed Forces Europe.
Oh, yes, I think that's come up before. Armed Forces Europe. We should salute Andrea Gill. Good. Well, look, thank you very much indeed for pledging for the show. It means a lot to us. We've had a lot of interest in the podcast recently, have we not? Some behind-the-scenes interest as well. We're having a little mull about. But it's, I think going to 20 books just showed us that this show is definitely something that people enjoy and value, which is great because that's what we try and do.
Who would have thought that?
Who would have thought that? 200.
I wouldn't have thought people would be enjoying or valuing anything that we did, but there we go. Just goes to show I'm wrong sometimes.
I think the male pleasure sleeve has left an indelible mark on the history of self-publishing. Good. We are in the middle of it at the moment. We've recently updated some of the course material. So Mark and I have been busy heads down. So Amazon Ads platform, which has changed and seems to, I'm going to touch wood as I say this, Mark, seems to have settled down a little bit now after quite a lot of changes this year.
That reminds me.
No, don't.
I don't want to worry you, but I logged in this morning and it was just the same as it was yesterday.
You're trying to send me over the edge. Where's my fan? It's so hot in here already. So the Amazon platform has settled down. And the situation at the moment is that you have 3 territories to choose from. .com, largely the US, the .de site, which is Germany, .co.uk, obviously is the UK. For those latter 2, you get a choice. you get a choice of one type of campaign, which is basically the keywords campaign. It's now called sponsored product ad, but it's driven on keywords. Either you opt out and they can do the keywords for you automatically, or you put them in yourself. And the .com site, you also get the additional option of the lock screen ads. Now, I think I said in the intro that so far we have not had people falling over themselves to tell us the lock screen has been the be-all and end-all for ads for them. In fact, we haven't had a lot of people saying it's worked for them, although there have been some exceptions. How about you, MD? Have you had success with lock screen ads?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, with AMG is mostly lock screen. So yes, but this is a massive scale. So 100 million impressions this year, I think it was, something like that. So you can't really do that with AMS.
No, AMG, we should say, is the advertising campaign that reaches parts other advertising campaigns can't reach, but only if you give Amazon $50,000 at least.
A lot of money. No, not as much as that, but it is. I think its minimum is around about 30 grand a month, so it's exceptionally expensive.
It is not for the likes of you and me. I mean, not for the likes of me. I saw it to our listener. Well, many of them.
It's expensive for me too.
Yeah. And Facebook ads, which is a platform that's also undergone a bit of a change, and I fear a little bit more is coming along because they've set up the business manager, and if I was a betting man, I'd say that in the not too distant future, you will have to have a business manager account, and that will be the place where you'll hold your other accounts. Might be wrong. Maybe they'll stay as it is.
That's not such a big change. I'm happy if they do that. No. It's if they start jiggering around with the actual interfaces when we get problems.
Yes, it is indeed. Caught a lot of attention. We've got an election on in the UK at the moment, and quite a lot of attention on social media advertising because the political parties obviously are using the platform as best they can. We're hearing stories that parties are having their ads turned down. I think it's Twitter have said they're not going to run political ads. Is that right?
That's right.
I saw one this morning from one of the major parties.
Right.
It looked like it was sponsored. I think I should have screen grabbed it actually. But yeah, all that's going on, and I don't know how you feel about these discussions when it's a bit like being in the Harry Potter world where we're wizards and everybody else is muggles. When muggles on the radio start talking about social media advertising, they usually don't have a clue what they're talking about. And you hear all sorts of things bandied around. Most commonly, a massive credibility is given to the ads in their power to change people's minds. So as soon as an ad's run, people who don't like the party or whatever seem to think that that's been responsible there and then for any kind of election result. Our experience of running ads is that the conversions are profitable but still small in the great scheme of things.
Well, remember, we're tracking conversions, right? So that's easy for us to do that. Those ads aren't intended to track conversions. They're intended to slowly shift opinion. And I think it is an issue whereby you can target people so precisely, target segments of the electorate that you need to switch, and not waste your money on billboard ads that go to everyone. There's all kinds of interesting things like that. I mean, I got an email, a Facebook ad yesterday for the Salisbury Liberal Democrats, and it was actually pretty good. It was the candidate walking in Salisbury in the market square. A very well produced video talking about climate change. It was quite effective, and I wonder if it had been targeted correctly, because all of the comments I saw, unless they're kind of monitoring the comments and filtering them, all of the comments were supportive, and I would have expected that kind of ad to,
maybe they are cussing the
they
negative
probably
comments.
are. Yeah, I mean, it was there were a few. I had some fun engaging with a couple of trolls, which I was bored yesterday. So it was always quite entertaining to.
They never feed the trolls, Mark.
I know. But anyway, tempting.
What was the Lib Dems pledge? Was it to have the atmosphere of Salisbury with much less polonium-232?
Yes.
And zirconium. What was the other one? I can't remember the nerve agent. Novichok. Yeah, much less of that in their future, in your future.
We're certainly up for that. Yes. Yeah.
Vote for us. Okay, good. Well, our election comes to a head on December the 12th, and just as we finish ours, the Americans will start their election cycle for next year. So we tend to try and keep clear of politics. Nobody's interested in our views, which aren't the same, by the way. People think that this show is all one way. It definitely is not. We have a broad church in the SPF.
Yeah. That's
enough said. Okay, right. Let's talk a little bit more about ads for authors. So the work we've been doing is recently on Facebook ads for authors and Amazon ads for authors. Make sure they're bang up to date and they're effective and they're working. And we're showing people how to get the juice out of those platforms. But we are now moving into next phase, which will be, we think, some offerings to take people onto the next level. So the higher level authors, people with books out, probably are already advertising. So you've been working on an advanced Facebook course. We're also talking at this stage about advanced Amazon ads course. And I noticed that you're putting stuff together. So at the moment you're doing a sort of reader funnel session, and that module. Is there more to come on that front? And what's the reason behind that?
What's the reason behind what?
The reason. Why have you chosen the reader funnel as a module for the advanced Facebook course?
Well, I've got to start somewhere, and I thought I'd give you a nice, easy one to start with. So,
I see. Oh, it's for me. Oh, okay. Excellent.
It's a underpinning philosophy of advertising generally, not just for advanced. It applies to everything from Amazon to BookBub to Facebook to seeing mates down the pub. Everything it's basically codifying the way I have advertised for 4 years. And yeah, I mean, if you'd come to see the presentation at Link, you'd know all about it. It went down very well, and people were kind of like, "Oh my god, that works! I understand it now. It makes sense."
Excellent.
And then and on top of that, I'll start to graft on bits about advertising tactics and strategies at different stages of the funnel. So a lot of this is going to sound like gibberish to most people who haven't actually.
Gibberish or gibberish?
Gibberish, yes. Gibbering gibberish to people who don't know what I'm talking about. But I think the course will be quite good, I think. I'm quite pleased with how it's come together so far. There's even animation in it and all kinds of things.
Good. And I think this is the last, is this correct? Am I going to say this correctly? The last time, if you sign up for Ads for Authors, this time you will get...
I think so. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, we'll see what it looks like when it's all put together. But it does feel like it could be a reasonably valuable course on its own. So we definitely, everyone who's signed up so far will get that for free. And anyone who signs up this time will get it for free as well. But I can't say for sure. I think it's unlikely that people will if they don't sign up this time.
Okay, and you can go to selfpublishingformula.com/ads for authors to get to the course details. Everything you need to know about the course is there. And I should also say that we have a webinar coming up. Let me just have a look at my calendar and work out where we are. So this is going out on the 6th. Yes, we have a webinar in time for this. So it's going to be the 11th of December. And you can go to selfpublishingformula.com. Keep talking, Mark, while I look up this link.
Yes, you can go to selfpublishing.com, link to be supplied, whereby I will talk about the reader funnel, and I'll probably do a little bit of kind of live Amazon ads, and there'll be a long Q&A as well, so that we can talk about all this good stuff.
Yeah, you're going to talk about the reader funnel. And if you want to join us for that live training, they're always fun, those live trainings, and always valuable. And you get a chance to ask the man himself what's on your mind. And we get as many questions done as we can. Selfpublishingformula.com/reader funnel, all one word. And you will be registered for that live training event, which is going to be, as I say, on December the 11th at 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. 9 p.m. in the UK, so you're 5 hours earlier in the East Coast, 8 hours earlier on the West Coast. And the next morning, unfortunately, but not too horrendous. I think it's something like 7:30 or 8 o'clock in Sydney, but you'll have to check that. Okay, good. Well, we've got a really fun interview today. One I had huge fun recording. We had Lucy's score last week, and I know Lucy's interview went down very well. I've seen the comments on YouTube and elsewhere about that. So Lucy and Tim. Lucy is a power author, a great romance author, does everything right in terms of her generating books, but also working with her audience, and Tim and her running the business well together. And Lucy recently, with 4 of her friends, I think, 5 in total, no, it's 4 in total, women got together to write a female billionaires series. So obviously the main trope is the man is the billionaire in the romance billionaire series, but not always. And they've decided this is time for some female empowerment, and it can still be romantic. And they've made the woman the billionaire with the associated problems of a CEO, a very high up woman, seen as being powerful, but actually also wanting love at the same time. You can see all the ingredients there, and no finer team of writers to tuck into that than these 4. So let's hear from this 4-way that I recorded. Of course I do that joke at the beginning, and you would be disappointed, would you not, if I didn't? And then Mark and I'll be back afterwards.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
I've never had a 4-way like this before. Wow, you really look like you'd only heard that once before. We're allowed to be saucy, right? Because this is romance in the kind of saucy, steamy end of things. Okay, that's where we are.
Right.
Let's set the landscape out straight away. Now, we're going to do a little bit of talking to you individually to find a bit about your backgrounds, but I'm really interested in the female billionaire romance project that's ongoing at the moment. So why don't you, Lucy, just tell me about the idea and where you are with the books at the moment?
So we have been planning this for over a year. The first 2 books of the Blue Water Billionaires romantic comedies came out. Mine came out in September. Claire's came out last week. And Kathryn's is coming out on Friday. And then Pippa is in November. So we released them 2 weeks apart.
2 weeks. That's really fun. So your book came out. We were together in Florida, actually. In fact, I think you mentioned it in the evening, did you not? That your book had come out.
In fact, I believe I made you read part of it.
Excuse me. Oh God, I just had this flashback. Okay. Well, look, I'm going to ask a question then. So you guys are, together you've sold a gazillion books. You guys are successful romance authors. Is that right?
Gazillion
I feel
is
like
the
that's
number.
fair.
Yeah.
Gazillion's my favourite.
The fair statement.
Gazillion.
One thing I'm interested in about this project is you're commercially minded, I think, the 4 of you. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So you're the type of writers who aren't going to choose a cover because it looks pretty. You're going to choose a cover because it sells your book.
Yes.
But the female billionaire seems to me like a little bit of a risk commercially. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but your kind of female might dream of meeting a billionaire because they're like wealthy and handsome, and that's a trope. And you're turning that round a little bit, which I love the idea of, by the way. But who wants to take that and tell me why you're doing it and whether you're worried?
Pippa does.
Pippa wants to say that. Nominated.
There's a few reasons we've done it. We are not the first people to ever do lady billionaire romances. There have been several that have been out before us. We just don't think there's enough of them because we do. We think, that there's escapism in romance and you want to... romance readers are super smart. They're like super smart and they read to get away from their everyday lives. And we know this and we will write books for that. And it's amazing and it's awesome. But at the same time, I want to write about a world I want to live in. And I want more representation of strong, powerful women who can also be the billionaire, but still be a relatable heroine. To make, I have a daughter. I would love the idea of her growing up and being like, forget this, I'm going to be a billionaire. I don't need to be saved.
Absolutely.
But we still love the fantasy of being swept off our feet by the male billionaires. But we also just wanted to embrace the idea that the women can be the billionaires too and add to the small but hopefully growing market of lady billionaires that are out there.
And Kathryn, I can see.
And as Pippa said, this was her idea originally. I saved the screenshot of when she came in and was like, I am so sick of this. Yeah. And she said, and just think about it. What kind of a man would it take to fall in love with a female billionaire? So, that's part of the equation too.
You have to have one hell of a hero.
Yeah.
Right.
Kathryn, I can see you nodding along vigorously during that. So I'm going to come to you on this. So
I'm a vigorous nodder. So
okay. That sounds kind of dirty, but I'm sure it's something not okay.
Sure.
Let's go with it, Flo. Okay, so obviously there is that fantasy element in that we read books, as you say, to a little bit of escapism, and of course it's an obvious thing that we like the idea of being that billionaire, that person, as well as being the person who falls in love. So is that empowerment, that wanting women to not be seen as the sort of damsel who the big strong man comes along and sweeps off their feet? That's very much a part of what's going on here, yeah?
Absolutely. Visibility matters. So it's really important. It's really important for me. I think it's really important for all of us here that we're writing romance novels where women are able to achieve the strength and the power that we all dream for women to have. So just like Pippa said, it's the world that we want to live in, which I think is also a form of a fantasy. You want to live in a world where women are billionaires. You want to live in a world where women are in the STEM fields, where they're scientists, where they're CEOs and running businesses, but that they're also experiencing their own journeys. So when I was younger reading romance novels, I still felt like in the 90s, it was still the hero's journey. Even though it was written for women and by women, I often felt like there was still a lack of self-love, or like by the end, the heroine was happy because the hero loved her. I want to write romance novels. I want to read romance novels where the heroine is happy because she loves herself. The hero is lucky that she loves him. That is the kind of romance novel that I think we all want to, kind of like work towards. Everyone's fantasies are different, and we can all read and enjoy different books that we like. But I think it's really powerful that all of these women are like self-made and they run their own businesses, and they, at the end of the day, their relationship with themselves and their relationship with their female friends is just as important as their relationship with the hero.
Really well thought through. I like that. So Pippa, Claire, I'm going to ask you now. I'm going to come to everyone. I'm going to come to you, Pippa, on this question. I'm going to ask what it was like, the challenge of writing it, because it is a different way of writing the story, right? When the roles are reversed a little bit, if I can put it that way.
It is. It's very different, and there's a balance to be had between making the male masculine enough and the heroine-y enough. I mean, heroic.
Not injecting, but enough. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I used all my words writing this morning. No, but it's a fun balance to have. And in a lot of ways, this was a hard book to write because we were moving past a lot of what we usually read to really put a powerful woman in position up front and close, and to figure out how to make her both sympathetic and strong at the same time. It was a delicate balance to walk that line, but it was also a lot of fun and very, very rewarding, like watching Lucy's book launch and watching Claire's book launch and seeing how well they've done and getting so excited for Kathryn's book to come out this Friday. Like it's been amazing. It's been almost as much of a journey for us as authors, I think, as it was for our heroines in our books.
Yeah, we'll come on to some of the practicalities and the launch strategies and so on in a moment. So I'm going to say that was Pippa talking, because some people are only listening to this.
Right.
In fact, most people only listen to the podcast. So I do have to be careful, and we've got so many voices in the room to make sure. That was Pippa. So Claire, I'm now going to ask you about that same question about writing, because you bump up against some cliche, in fact, because of the way things have worked out historically with, I'm afraid, us in the the patriarchy and all that. Those sort of cliches about the female CEOs being bossy and arrogant, and none of those words that we perhaps lazily associate with powerful women say romance to me. But of course that's rubbish, isn't it? Because women fall in love and men fall in love regardless of their status. So how have you dealt with that?
A little bit. It is a challenge because you don't want to fall back on the woman who is simply a man with lady parts. Like, that's not a real strong woman. That's not what strong women really are. And I think that's easy to do when it's easy for people to imagine, well, I'll just put a skirt on the character and that's the CEO. Well, she's a woman now, but she acts like a man or whatever. So it really just, I think for all of us, for me, I know it involved just searching for who this character is. Where does she come from? Just like anytime we write a book, who is she? Where does she come from? How did she get here? And it also, for me, helped to really dive into her vulnerabilities, because she is a powerful woman in terms of her position in the world. She's, a CEO, she's running this big company, and she has all these big responsibilities. And yet she still has flaws and vulnerabilities and I think leaning into those with a character kind of makes them more sympathetic. You give things for the reader to kind of say like, okay, I get that. I mean, I purposely had her first scene be a scene of vulnerability where she's hanging out with her friends and she's having a good time at this auction. And yet she's thinking back on this thing that happened and that is bothering her. She's been hurt, and she's just like anybody can be hurt. Her money is not a shield against that. So I think for me, that was a big deal, making her still vulnerable and human and flawed, and not just, I don't know, like a wall of, perfection and confidence at all times.
Yeah. So Lucy, this is an opportunity to explore some of that, isn't it? About the very real challenges that face powerful women. First of all, when they're more junior, having their voice heard and rising up, and then I guess your women are sort of at the top of the tree at this point. But then they're still going to come across that sexism. Is sexism playing a part in this? Beyond it being kind of the foundation, perhaps, of where the ideas come from, are you having your characters bump up against it in the books?
I did a little bit. I explore a little bit of her past dealings with people who aren't necessarily used to a powerful woman being in charge. But I didn't want to make that the main focus, because there really are a lot of strong, powerful women out there who that isn't part of their day-to-day. You know, they own their power and they live it, and people respect them. So I didn't want to make it so much of a daily battle, fighting sexism and things like that. It's more of it's just a blip on her screen, I think. She deals with it. It's expected. It happens occasionally, but she's pretty much too busy to take it seriously, which is nice.
Yeah, which is absolutely nice. And Kathryn, so that same question really about the writing challenge of this and the tropes and cliches to avoid.
Yeah, for me, I found for my two characters, it was a very interesting tightrope walk. So I wrote opposites attract. Luna is a female billionaire, sunshiny, vegan, like cheerful do-gooder. Beck comes from a criminal family. He's an ex-biker from a motorcycle gang. Very limited education because he was in and out of juvenile detention, ex-convict. So they don't trust each other because why would Beck trust a billionaire? He doesn't think that she has anything good to say. And Luna doesn't like Beck because he's so grumpy and, you know, he eats meat and she just can't trust him. But she didn't like his like grumpy, like Heineken drinking. But what I wanted, and this is why I had to write like 70,000 drafts of this book, is it was challenging to make sure that Beck didn't trust Luna for her money, but not because she was a woman with money. And that Luna not trust Beck because of his stubbornness and his walls, but not because he was someone with a criminal past who had less money than she was. Like, their lives were different and they needed to not trust each other because it's a romance novel. They needed to grow in love and grow in their attraction. But my very first conversations with them, even my own, I would read it back, I'd read my own implicit bias where I'd be like, Luna's coming off as maybe classist. Beck is coming off as sexist. Neither of them are those things, but if you pit your characters together, you then have to deal with their socioeconomic differences. And I found it to be very challenging. Their very first few scenes I rewrote a lot because I wanted to make sure that those things weren't part of their lives. Because for the same thing as Lucy said, Luna experiences a ton of sexism. She's also a woman of color. She's biracial. She's Mexican and Italian. She gets a lot of hatred and a lot of online hatred. But I also wanted to write a world where she also could just move through it freely and like live her life the way that she wanted to it. So it was very challenging for me to have the power dynamic be woman over man in terms of money, because money is complicated. And when I first started writing the book, I kept telling my editor, I was like, I don't want to make it about money. I don't want to make it about power. I don't want to make it about Beck's criminal history. I don't want to make it about like Luna's experience. And then you can't help it. I chose opposites attract, and they're opposites. And she has a lot of money. He has no money.
Yeah.
So there's like,
and that's the deal. Yeah.
There was a scene, I actually changed it, but there was a scene when she first takes him to the Enclave that I wanted to be like lighthearted and fun because the Enclave is so fun. It's blue water. But Beck was really uncomfortable and kind of pissed at her. And Luna was kind of like, yeah, what if a man took me to his mansion and was like, oh yeah, this is where I live. And you live in like a little apartment on the bad side of town. Wouldn't that make you feel uncomfortable? And it was really, I had to dismantle all those kind of implicit biases. And that was really hard for me for sure.
Yeah. But you did a great job with it.
I hope so.
Pippa, so this was your idea originally. You're the person who said, let's do this. So
I'm the instigator.
Did you? All your fault. In terms of the world building, how much of that went on before you all started drafting?
Oh, we had so much fun with the world building. We would we'd get together just like this, basically in a video chat with the four of us, or we would be in a private text chat, and we'd be like, "So, where are we going to set this?" And we decided we wanted to set it in Miami because it was tropical and it was fun, and it's like summer all year round, and there's just a whole lot of like, there's a vibe and there's fun and excitement. And we were talking about all the different things we could do and the things that we could say. And my heroine, Daisy, is the crazy one of the bunch. She is, to put it mildly, but she's the party animal. She's the one who actually inherited money, but she really does step up and work hard for her family's business. And we wanted... I'm going to lose my train of thought here, but
I'll help you out because that prompts a question for me. So the individual characters, the individual billionaire women you've come up with for your books.
Yes.
Did one of you think, well, we've got to have this, that, and A, B, and C. So you have that. You all individually thought of your character and then shared it, or?
Yes. I think that I was the only one who was like, oh, well, you guys have got this one, that one, and that one covered. So how about I do the crazy one?
Yeah, okay.
I actually think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I think so.
It's like Friends, and you ended up with Phoebe.
Yeah, I ended up with Daisy, and I love her, and she's hilariously fun, and also has a big heart. And I think one of the things that really struck me as I was reading everyone's billionaire novels is how much all of the female billionaires worry about the people who work for them. It's not just a matter of, oh, I run this $1 billion company. I think all of us in all of our books at one point, our heroines said things along the lines of, no, it matters because this is how people pay their mortgages, this job that I provide for them. And I think that sort of takes the woman's caretaker role and elevates it to a new level when they're not just worried about, it's my friends in my neighborhood or it's my family. It's like thousands of people who work for me in this gigantic corporation are going to hurt if something happens to it. And but I remember where I was going talking about the world building. We were tossing around ideas like if we're going to be in Miami, we should have a fun animal. And that's where Steve, our alligator, came from. I won't spoil that for you, but Steve's a good character. We like him. And our parrot, and talking about what we were going to call ourselves or call our characters, and like the Lady Billionaires. And then I think we came on and she said, oh, we should all go to drag queen brunch. And so each of us in our stories put in like a scene at the drag queen brunch place. And it was just so much fun to build it. And
is the alligator in every book?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the commonality.
He has 3 legs.
And have you made it a thing that the billionaires all have to appear in each other's books, or they just referred to it? Okay.
Yes, the friendship is super big. I think all of us wanted to do books where the female characters really supported one another and were friends like all the way to the pits of their soul, and not just like a superficial sort of friendship, but really they get each other. Female billionaires, are not a dime a dozen, so they have a few issues that only other female billionaires can understand. And so when we decided to build an enclave where we built their own little neighborhood where they could live together, that was a big part of it, was because they wanted to be able to be with other people who totally got it when they'd come home and be like, I just had this horrible experience and there's going to be a scandal at my company and people want me to fail because I'm a woman. And there wasn't a whole lot of that, wanting me to fail because I'm a woman, that was out there in your face, but that it was still going to happen. So
I can see a couple of books down the line, there's going to be at some point some tension between some of the characters here, because that's got to be the next step, right? To take this on, and one of them's got to do something, the other 3 are like, whoa, you don't. Intervention.
No, I think that happens in every single book.
Oh,
I think the other 3 have to step in at some point in every book.
I think that Lucy and Claire and Kathryn's characters actually tossed mine in a pool at one point. Or like, get over yourself.
That sounds mean. That doesn't sound very supportive. So did any of you read any real life autobiographies or biographies of very successful women as background to this?
I've read everything about Oprah.
Okay. Good example though, isn't she? I mean,
I've been obsessed with Oprah for 20 years. So
is there a restraining order?
Not anymore. It's expired.
Okay, good. Sounded like the obsession may have gone a bit too far, but anyway, yeah. So yeah, but Oprah's a great example, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's she built an empire and she became a billionaire, and she did it all herself. Obviously there's an amazing team of people behind her, but yeah, I think she's a really kind of bright, shiny example of what a woman can do today.
Talking about a great team behind you, I like the fact that Tim's head occasionally appears in a mirror behind you.
You can see him in the mirror.
Just dipping in there. There's always got to be a man somewhere, isn't there? Just around the corner.
That's right. Ghost popping in.
Okay. So
my office is haunted.
Yeah, there's no one else in the house apart from the snake, of course.
The snake is. If you see the snake in the mirror, let me know.
I should tell the listener that I've been in your house and we went down into the basement to see where Tim worked, and you said, "Oh, there's a snake down there." Which I all the way down the stairs, I was thinking, what does that mean? What does "there's a snake in the basement" mean? Some American expression? There's a snake in the basement. Right. Turned out there's a bloody great snake. I mean, actually, a huge snake in the basement. Anyway,
in an aquarium.
In an aquarium.
Not like slithering around free. And
yeah, but the first time I went to Lucy's house, I also was in the basement, and I was like, Lucy, Tim has a big old snake.
Like she didn't know. Yeah. Okay.
I'm obsessed with Tim's snake.
Yes.
All the time.
That, again, is also straying into...
Tim's snake is very large.
Double entendre.
Wow. Good job.
Right. Good. Moving on from the snake, let's talk about the launches. How have they gone, first of all? I mean, Lucy, you had that launch in Nink, and I think literally within a couple of days, you were at the top of the charts, right?
Yeah, it went really well. I wasn't sure what to expect. I think women in general are harder on women. So readers are usually harder on the heroines than in other genres. But I was a little nervous about how this whole series was going to go. But I think The Price of Scandal hit number 11 in the store, and Claire's hit number 6 in the store.
Wow.
Yeah. So readers are really excited about the series, and we have a lot of crossover between our readership. So it's really fun to watch them go from book to book and author to author. So it's been really exciting. I'm really happy. September is usually kind of a glitchy month to launch, and I definitely saw some weirdness in the charts and with advertising, and I think that's kind of carrying over into October. But still, overall, I think we've been really, really happy.
And you've all got your own mailing lists.
Yes.
And you're obviously cross-promoting each other, so there's a bit of power here from the four of you. Who wants to talk about kind of launch strategy? Total silence, and everyone stares at me.
Crickets.
So fun.
It should be Claire or Pippa.
Let me ask. Did you have a launch strategy? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We did have a launch strategy, and I think a lot of it, like you said, is just cross promoting each other, kind of spreading out our newsletter hits. So we're grabbing different readers on different days to kind of grease those algorithms on Amazon to try to get those steady sales. And, we did a lot of build up leading up to it with our respective readers, like trying to get our readers excited, like, hey, this is coming. If you haven't read these other authors, they're amazing. We know you'll love them. And just kind of trying to build buzz among our readers for each of the books, not just for our individual release. Even though, they're kind of standalones, you could just read the one or whatever, but we've tried to emphasize, like, you're going to want to read all of them, you guys. So, if you haven't checked out Pippa or Lucy or Kathryn or whatever, like, get on that, because these are amazing. And the reader response has been really great. Like, they've really latched onto these characters. Like, I see so many people now saying, oh my gosh, Luna's book is coming. I can't wait for Daisy's book. So it's working, I think, the way that we hoped, which is really fantastic.
Fantastic.
And I think it'll be fun when we have all 4 books out, because in my own books, I have found that with each book I release, I find new readers who go back through the whole series. So There's a little bit of pressure being number 4, because I have to get new readers to go back and start with Lucy's book.
Yeah, don't screw it up, Pippa.
Yeah, Pippa.
I love that supportive environment.
But we're doing other things too inside the books. Like we all put links to each other's books inside of our own books and not just, read these other books, but the teaser lines, to be like, read this book because it's awesome and amazing. And you want to read about the motorcycle gang guy and the hippie flower chick, and you want to read about the woman who walked in and found the man who's going to fix all of her problems naked in her bathroom.
In a bathroom.
I want to read that. So this sounds.
You did.
This sounds like oh yes. This sounds like a powerful combination, the four of you. So at some point when this first stage of this project, 'cause I know there's going to be more stuff in the future, you're going to hopefully start to feel you've picked up readers from each other, increased all your own back catalogues.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Absolutely. I mean, I think of this group, I'm like the smallest, most big baby author in terms of number of followers and number of books. And so I know I can just say for me, having the smaller following, I've gotten, I don't have numbers on me, but the sheer number of folks added to my reader group, folks on my mailing lists, folks following me on Instagram and Twitter. Also, even just early reviews of people saying, oh, this is my first book of Kathryn Nolan's. I read her because I had read these other authors. Literally today, someone's review was, guess I'm going to go buy all Kathryn's books now. And I was like, thank you so much. which is also happening for Claire and Lucy and Pippa too. But I think I can just say as a smaller author, I know I've been really feeling it over the last few weeks. I've been feeling a really steady, I think in 1 week I must have added 150 people to my reader group, which is
that's awesome.
Your
pre-orders are astronomical right now, so that's really exciting too.
How excited are you?
I'm very excited. I called my mom. My mom said, "Is that pre-orders of hardcover books?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "We be billionaires."
Pippa, this is a new pen name for you.
This is a new pen name.
Pippa is a pen name for you.
Well, yes, I've been using it about 2 years now.
Okay. So you have
relatively new.
When you say 2 years, I know you guys are quite prolific with your books. How many books have you written under that pen name?
Oh,
900.
Yeah, exactly.
So many she doesn't know.
Let me think. I think I have 12 plus 4 plus 1. Is that 17? I think I have 17 books out. Some are co-written. One is my Blue Water Billionaire book, and then 12 just solo Pippa Grant titles.
Okay. So. And when you're launching in the Blue Water Billionaire series, are you doing your own Amazon ads or Facebook ads, etc.? You just do you agree with each other kind of on spend, or is it just up to you as an individual for your book what you do?
It's up to us individually how much we want to spend on it. I tend to have a fairly large ad budget. My books are a little quirkier, and so I will frequently talk to my husband about my ad spending, and he's my sounding board a lot of times, my consultant, if you will. And I'll say, I'm going to spend more money on this launch. And he says, so as long as you're making more money back than what you're spending, that's a good thing. And so that's really, I've always considered it to be a growth mindset, because my first pen name, I pretty much broke even doing that for about 4 years. But I had learned Facebook ads during that time. And so when I launched the Pippa name, I knew I needed to grow an audience. And so my initial feeling was, if I break even on my ads, that's good because I'm gaining an audience. And that grew into, if I double my money back on my ads, that's good. And I will keep growing my budget while I double or triple my money back on my ads until we hit critical mass. And I hit critical mass, I think, earlier this year. And it's been a really good year. So It's been a good experience.
Fantastic.
Here we are. We're all spending what we feel comfortable on. I think I probably have one of the larger ad budgets, and I'm totally fine with that because I'll make my money back on my book, and I know it'll flow over into Lucy and Kathryn and Claire's books. And it's all about, I don't think everything has to be fully even in that case. Yeah. I think that it's just good to put it out in the world and advertise for all of us, and know that with all of the group efforts that it's all going to come back around and be totally worth every minute. So
yeah, good. And I like the growth mindset. It is important to remember that, people who think if they scale up their ads, the return percentage goes down, but it doesn't really matter because in absolute terms, it's usually more money, even if it's a smaller return. And so it's very important. That's how businesses grow. And as you get bigger, the percentages do tend to get smaller. You know, I remember in our non-fiction business, we converted like 20% of our first list to buy a course, and now it's 5%, but we make more money. But some people don't strangely see that. So you guys seems to me, business-wise, some of those chats you have like this when I'm not the fifth person in the screen, although I might join in from now on, but I could moderate. When you have these chats about characters and stories, you also talk a bit of business with each other. Who wants to take that?
Yes.
Lucy, do you want to talk business? Or just Tim? Do you need Tim to come into the mirror?
I feel like I know nothing about business. So.
I can talk more about business, but I don't need this to be the Pippa show.
we all are very business-minded. Kathryn's actually, Tim, my publisher, also publishes Kathryn. So it's a lot of fun for us to dump all of our stuff on him.
Yes.
Tim is my boss.
Yeah. And Kathryn's Tim's boss. So it's
excellent. Yeah. So that's interesting. Kathryn, I hadn't realized you were one of, you're on the list there.
Yeah. So I don't know. I learned a lot about business from Lucy and Tim, and then also Tim is my boss. So it's super awesome because they're like, writing can be such an isolated activity, and I am a super extrovert. And so it's very nice for me to have coworkers. Like I think of Lucy, and I call Lucy and Tim my coworkers in my head. So that's how I like think of them, which is for me really great. And it's been really wonderful because when I met Lucy and Tim, the amount of knowledge that I knew, I mean, always felt like a strong writer. I've always been a writer, but the amount of knowledge that I knew about this business in particular was like big old zero. So it's been really wonderful for me to like know actually everyone in this group, because I've learned so much in such a short period of time. I feel beyond lucky. And Tim's a very good boss.
I'm pleased to hear. He doesn't threaten you with a snake very often.
No, it's not a threat.
No. Where we should ask where you all are. I know you're near Harrisburg, Lucy, because I've been there. Are you all within spitting distance of each other, or is it because America's quite a big country, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Where are you, Pippa? Where are you?
I'm in Ohio.
Oh, okay. Kathryn?
I'm in Philadelphia.
Claire?
I'm in Seattle, so I'm on the wrong coast.
You
we
are.
keep trying to talk her to move to the East Coast.
I know.
So it is a very modern virtual. I mean, another aspect of how this is more possible today than it. Well, I mean, it's absolutely possible that 4 19th century novelists could have written letters to each other. It would have been rather wonderful, actually, exchanging all these ideas in letters. But this is certainly the digital revolution has enabled this type of relationship, and it's a great thing to see.
Yeah. For sure.
Absolutely.
I've got a couple more questions on the marketing. I want to do a little bit précis because now we've had the chat, people have heard your voices and your stories. They want to know a little bit more about you, so we'll do that in a second. But things like the covers and the blurbs, are you working to make sure these are aligned? Because I can see if you're working individually, they could have a very different tone to the blurbs and the covers could look very different. So who wants to talk about that? Claire, do you want to talk about that? Lucy's in. Sorry, Claire.
No, go ahead. Let's get Claire while her microphone's working. Yeah. Do it, Claire.
Right? I know. We did coordinate a lot with the covers. We actually had a single cover designer work on the cover design for us so that they could be branded, really tightly branded. And we were able to kind of make our own choices about which model we wanted and our titles. We titled our own books ourselves, but we asked for each other's feedback, and we do that even when we're not working together. Like these ladies are an awesome sounding board when you're like, okay, I'm thinking of this title, and you or whatever, and I know that I can always run it by them, and they can be like, yes, it's amazing, or like, dude, don't do it. which is so great. You got to have your people in your corner who will be honest.
Yep.
But yeah, we did make sure that they were coordinated and branded, and we had the same cover designer do all 4 of them. And as far as blurb writing, I mean, it's kind of the bane of our existence. So it was great to be able to lean on each other for that too. Like we drafted them, but then asked for help. And we had, at least, I haven't fully read everybody's finished drafts yet, but we at least knew each other's stories really well and had read through parts of them and everything. And so that was helpful too when it came to blurb writing.
Did you share outlines before you started drafting with each other? I mean, how much did you coordinate from the beginning on the stories?
No, our books were really kind of our own thing. We did talk about things that needed to carry through in every book, like the drag queen brunch. And also in coordination with the drag queen brunch, we did a couple of romance novelist cameos in each book. So
do you appear in each other's books? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hitchcockian.
So our exactly. And so all of our books include the drag queen brunch scene, and all of our lady billionaires go and they're having brunch, and at the table next to them, because they get the same table every time, it's 4 romance novelists who meet on the same day and they're discussing books. So our lady billionaires are listening in because they're just obsessed with these women. So that was super fun.
That sounds
but
great.
we didn't share outlines with each other. I don't know if we all outline in the same way or if we all outline.
We'll find out in a second, because I'm going to ask
everybody beta read everybody else's drafts, though. Okay. So if there was something like, I started the world, so if there was something off that didn't work with my book that was already to the editors, I could be like, no, this is actually on Tiki Bar Drive, not whatever. There was a lot of collaboration during the stories, but not a lot of official, here is my outline, please approve. Everybody was really in charge of their own characters and their own stories.
Is the drag queen brunch a real thing, by the way, in Miami?
It is. And I've never been to one, but I can't wait to go now.
Yes. Yes, we have to go.
Super fun.
Together. We're all going to fly to Miami for one.
Yes.
That sounds like it should definitely be on the cards. Good. Okay, look, I'm going to circle round before we finish and find out a little bit more about you as individual writers. So, Kathryn, I'm going to start with you. Just give us the skinny then on who you are in your writing career.
Just my writing career.
Well, what else are you? Been an international assassin as well. I mean, you can color it.
I have like a dog, so that's the only thing the only thing I talk about. So I was like, don't talk about your dog. I'm Kathryn. I mean, I think most writers, have been a writer since I was a little kid. I wrote probably my first novel when I was like in 6th grade. It was a soap opera written in note form between 6th graders about who was dating who and which teachers were having an affair. It was called All My Students.
Excellent.
And it was based on all my children.
That's awesome.
That's the beginning of my illustrious career. And I went to college for creative writing, but I gave up that dream and went into political science and social justice, which is what I did until I refound my dream again in 2016. Before that, I did a couple of years of NaNoWriMo and started going back to writing classes and writing groups, and published my first novella September 2016. In July of 2017, my husband and I quit our jobs and we moved into a camper van, and we lived all over the country for a while. And I wrote another book, and then we ended up back in Philadelphia, where I'm from. And I've published, I think 6 books, 6 full-length books, 3 novellas. And they're mostly steamy contemporary romance. And I sometimes think about the way that I don't know if you guys ever feel this way or if anyone ever feels this way, but I definitely feel very emotional sometimes when I think about how cavalierly I ditched this dream and dropped writing, which was the most important thing in my entire life to me. And when I think about what I get to do now and how I felt when I was a little girl, it is just the most beautiful feeling, because I just wrote so much Star Wars fan fiction, in my journal that little Kathryn would never ever believe that she was a romance author. So that has been my writing career so far. And so I'm super happy lady, and I have a dog.
You have a dog, yeah. And if you're watching the YouTube version, there's a big beaming smile on Kathryn's face when she talks about it, which is lovely. And it's not, you shouldn't feel too bad about those years. Certainly before sort of 2011, 2012, there wouldn't have been a lot of point, because you would have been fighting the whole gatekeeper agent thing, and then it wouldn't have been very necessarily financially rewarding for most authors. It isn't. So you've come in at the right time. They weren't wasted years at all. You were just building up to that point.
Thank you. I appreciate
right in the middle of it. Okay, Claire, so we're going round in my little clock that I've got in front of me now. So give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, let's hope my microphone doesn't die again. I'm so
Speak
sorry,
quickly.
guys. Yeah, really. Yeah, like Kathryn, I've been a writer forever. I remember like winning the best author award in 6th grade. And
that's awesome.
It was like the time when it occurred to me that like, oh yeah, I do really like writing these stories and stuff. I got it in my head that I wanted to be a novelist sometime in my early 20s. And I remember the time being like, this sounds like an awesome idea. I could totally do this. And I started going to writers' conferences and reading all these craft books and writing and writing and writing. And it was all really, really terrible. And I'm so glad that most of it doesn't exist anymore, because if like anyone found it, I would probably die. And I didn't really finish anything back then. And you know, I'm old enough that this was definitely pre-self-publishing. And so I was dutifully going to all the how do you get an agent seminars and all that kind of stuff. And then I started having babies and I stopped writing fiction for a while, because like, it sounds kind of woo-woo weird, but I feel like all my creative energy was really going into making people for a while. And I had 3 of them. And when they got a little bit older, I started feeling that urge to write fiction again. I was blogging at the time. I was kind of a mommy blogger for a while, and that was sort of my outlet, my writing outlet. But I started writing fiction again, but I didn't used to write romance. I started writing epic fantasy, because that was kind of what I was raised on. I was raised on The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and Chronicles of Narnia, and later into like the Dragonlance Chronicles. And I like played D&D in college, like nerd girl, right? And I thought that was what I really wanted to write. And so I started writing fantasy, and I wrote 4 epic fantasy novels, and I started publishing in 2014. And along the way, I discovered I really didn't like writing fantasy that much. It just wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't feeding my soul in the way that I thought it would. And there were parts of it that I enjoyed reading and didn't so much enjoy writing. And I kind of had this crisis in late 2015 where I was like, what am I going to do if I don't write fantasy? Like, what else would I write? And so I just started reading like everything. I read books by authors I had met. I read mysteries and a thriller and, you know, old stuff that I had read like years ago. I went back to it, and then I read a couple of romance novels, like newer contemporary romance, and I was enamored. I was like, this, oh my gosh, like I had all these feelings, and I, you know, put the Kindle down at the end of the book, and I was just like swooning and happy and like, oh my God. And so I thought, oh my gosh, maybe this is what I could do. And I didn't tell anyone, and I didn't talk about it. And I was so nervous, and I started writing a novel, my first romance novel. And I loved it. And I kind of went on this creative tear because I was so inspired and so excited. And I just started writing and writing and writing. And I wrote like 3 books really, really fast. I mean, I wrote like 120,000 words in a month, and which is insane for me. Like, I'm not a super fast writer. So that was just like, it was just pouring out of me. And so, yeah. So, and I never looked back. I actually even have an unfinished fantasy series. Like, I never wrote the final book in the series, because once I started writing romance, I felt like I had found my place, and I had found what I really loved. And, so here I am now, you know, 20 something books later. And I'm a romance author, sort of unexpectedly, but I love it.
Fantastic. And by the way, nerd romance must be a thing, right?
Absolutely.
I am currently writing a nerd romance.
Yeah.
My next release, both of the characters are nerdy characters.
Yeah, perfect. You'd be great at that. Yeah. Lucy Score. Now we have got you coming up, and you've got your own show coming up on the self-publishing show. So people have to wait a little bit, but I'm just going to say that you've been a hugely successful author in recent years. Things really took off. You have a very loyal audience. You look after, I'm doing Lucy's bit. You look after them. Going. Yeah. And you bathe in money every night.
I do.
Except occasionally you violently
tens and 20s,
punch
not
it out of
ones
the bar.
and fives.
Yes, yeah. $100 bills. Did I get that right? Is that all correct? Apart from the metaphor.
That's correct.
Good. Well, I'll tell you what, hold it there, because we do have that interview coming up with you, and people are going to hear all about you and how you got from there to here. So that comes to Pippa. Are you allowed to tell us your other pen names and your real name, Pippa?
Oh, yes, I can tell you my other pen name. I started writing as Jamie Farrell in 2013. And I took the Pippa Grant pen name because my husband is in the military and he had been transferred into a position of command. And at the time I was writing Mr. McCotty, which was my first Pippa Grant book. And it has a very steamy, racy elevator hate sex scene. And we realized that having my husband's lieutenants talking about that at the water cooler when they had announced at his change of command ceremony that I wrote as Jamie Farrell would be a really bad thing.
Did you think that would undermine his authority?
Possibly.
Okay. Or elevate him. I don't know, one of the two.
Or elevate. It could, probably both. It depended on the person. But he recently switched out of that job. And so I'm able to be open with both of my pen names now publicly. I changed them. I completely rebranded all of my Jamie Farrell books to add my Pippa Grant name because Pippa's been a more successful author than Jamie was. So, but I actually started writing in 3rd grade. So, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. And it's not a competition.
No competition. No.
Yeah, you're like, suck it, 6th graders.
Yeah, you losers.
I was writing these books and my parents would laugh every time they'd read them. And I didn't realize that was a good thing. So I was embarrassed and I quit.
Oh, I'm sure they didn't mean to.
Yeah, and I have an engineering degree. So I'm a computer engineer by trade. I call myself a recovering engineer now. But as soon as my husband commissioned into the military and we moved, I couldn't find a job. And I was just horrified and I was lonely and I didn't know where I was or how to be a military wife. And I started writing again as self-therapy, and that just morphed into joining Romance Writers of America and doing the whole querying agents and editors thing before self-publishing was a thing. And now I'm just having the time of my life writing books that make me laugh hysterically and entertaining readers. It's the biggest high ever to get an email from somebody who says I was having a bad day and I picked up your book and I started laughing. And I'm like, that is why I do it. And it's been awesome.
Fantastic. Amazing. Lucy, how did you all meet?
Well, it started with Claire. I'm a little fuzzy on some of it, but it started with Claire and it was going to be this super cute story, but Claire's friend / assistant messaged me out of the blue. I had never talked to her, and she said, I have my friend Claire is an author and she doesn't know a lot of people. And I just really thought that you two would hit it off. You have a lot of similarities. Your personality seems really similar. If you ever get a chance, seek her out, send her a message. And I didn't know anybody at all in the industry. So I was pretty I am not an aggressive extrovert like Kathryn. I'm the exact opposite. So I finally was like, okay, well, maybe I could just message her. So I did. And we struck up this friendship and it was really great. And it wasn't until this year that I found out that Nikki sent that same message to a whole bunch of other authors.
Oh,
my God.
It wasn't just me.
Whoa. It's just a circular.
Yeah. But I was the one who stuck, so Claire's stuck with me now.
It's true.
Claire, did anybody else reply?
Yeah, they did. And Nikki called it setting up author playdates because I am also not an extrovert. And she was like, you need to meet more authors and network. And I was like, but that's hard and scary. And what if they don't like me? And so, I think I, got a couple messages of hi, I'm so-and-so. And then that was sort of it. But then Lucy messaged me. And I have to say, the other part of this story is that back when I was trying to figure out who I was as a writer, and I was reading all these books, and I stumbled on a couple of contemporary romances and read one. One of them was Lucy's book. And so I was like, one of her books was one of these books that I loved so much that made me want to write romance. And so when Nikki was like, oh yeah, and I messaged Lucy Score, I was like, you message who? What are you even doing? Because I was like, she was like this rock star author to me. I was like, I was dying. And then Lucy did message me back, and I was just like trying to act like I was super chill, which is good that it wasn't on video or anything. It was just something. Because realistically, I was sending this message like, oh hi, it's so nice to meet you. And really, I was on the floor, rolling around, freaking out. And my husband was like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, Lucy Scar messaged me.
Claire, if it makes you feel any better, when I met Lucy, it was in person. And I actually attacked her coming out of the bathroom. And I went, oh my God, you're Lucy Score.
I've done that to authors. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I'm not friends with Harlan Coben anymore, though, because of him. As a result of doing that.
Was that at Thriller Fest?
That was at Thriller Fest.
You were lurking.
Accosted him outside. Well, he'd been avoiding us, and I thought if I stand outside this cubicle, he's got to come out at some point. And anyway, he did the interview. He was fine. He was fine about it. But it's easy to be starstruck, isn't it?
Yeah, and now Claire and Pippa can't get rid of me. They're like, oh gosh, she's in my DMs every 10 minutes.
You're in for the ride now. Okay, so guys, authors. I don't want to say ladies because it's a terrible 1980s thing, but I do come from the 70s. So I'm going to say something like that soon. Ladies, women, guys. Let's say that. Can I say guys? Okay. I just literally don't know what I can say anymore, just because it's a very confusing world.
Each other.
Yes. Yeah. What's going to be next? You're going to get to the end of this, Kathryn. Your book soon. When did you say? A few days.
On Friday.
Friday. Okay. From where we're sitting now, which is middle of October, right? End of October, 21st, Trafalgar Day in the UK. So yours is coming out very soon, and then Pippa's, yours is the last. Is that right?
Yes, mine is last at November 8th.
And are you all moving back to your own series after that for a bit, or have you got plans for another Blue Water?
Well, I was going to say what happens immediately the day after Pippa's book comes out is all four of us are at the Indies Invade book signing in Philadelphia. So November 9th, we are all in like side-by-side tables like the day after the series ends.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
it's gonna be
crazy.
You're gonna be drunk, aren't you, by about 12 o'clock?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I have just like an IV of wine coming in. That I just drag around.
But then you're going to revisit this? You're not sure? No decisions? Or do something else together? Wow.
I think everybody's going back to their own things. Yeah. We may look at doing some sort of box set with some bonus content next year or something like that with the Lady Billionaires. And we'd like to do maybe a fundraiser with a STEM, girls in STEM cause, maybe.
That's a great idea.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So don't hold us to it. But I think these collaborative projects are really fun and exciting, but they also take a lot of time and energy. Like I know that every launch, it feels like your own launch. So we're going through these really accelerated editorial periods where, you know, you're writing your own book, you're reading everybody else's book, and now you're helping everybody else launch. And I think everybody's really excited to go back to their own thing for a little while.
It does.
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, it must complicate life because it's it's complicated as it is launching your own book, but the added addition, I can see that already. But what a brilliant thing to do. And you certainly come across as if you've all had a fab time doing this.
We had a great time. Absolutely.
Yeah, this was the best.
There's a little bond, a little Blue Water bond here that's going to be cemented in Philadelphia and then at some point in a drag bar in in Miami.
Yeah, we will be there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, we've hit the hour mark. I want to say thank you so much indeed. This has gone. I mean, I knew it'd be a really fun interview. I was slightly worried about us all talking over each other, but it's been really civilized in that sense, hasn't it? I don't know why I'm sounding so surprised.
No one's ever called us that
before. It must be something to do with the distance. But great. No, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much indeed. And thank you, Claire, for coming and going and sorting out your technicals.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. This was really awesome.
Thank you.
It's been our pleasure.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
There you go. Do you know, I thought I might be eaten alive. I might have my hands full with that interview, but they were absolutely lovely. We've met, I think, all but one of them in real life at various conferences, and they're great, inspiring women. I think these 2 weeks of interviews have been really inspiring, not just for romance writers, but for people who've got their heads down, they're getting their books churned out, they've got their heads stuck into marketing, they're doing a lot right, and being well rewarded as a result.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's. I enjoyed Lucy's interview last week, and although as we record this, I haven't heard this one. I am looking forward to giving it a listen, if only for the sight of you rubbing your legs in a Vic Reeves fashion, which I know another reference will be lost on everybody apart from people who grew up in the UK during the 90s.
The sight of me slightly scared. It was good. I mean, joking aside about the innuendo of a four-way, it's actually a reasonable technical challenge. And I've listened to podcasts in our space in the past where you've had three or four voices talking, and there can be a bit of a cacophony of noise. But actually, the women were brilliant. They picked up one after the other, and it's a very easy listen. So that is the Female Billionaires. Inspiration to do. I mean, they've got to the point now where they're doing things that they want to do. Well, I suppose you're doing things that you want to do all the time, but this was them getting together thinking, this would be a great idea. Let's do this. I'm not sure if the series is going to go much further, but it was definitely a project they all enjoyed working on, and what a fun thing to do. Good for them. Have you ever read a romance book in your life, Mark?
Yes, I have, yeah.
What have you read?
Well, quite a lot. I read all kinds of things. I'm reading a couple at the moment, actually. From one, I have a few things going on at the same time, so I'm dipping in and out of a couple of books. Some I of an author I met in Vegas. I'm enjoying very much. Yeah, I'm a fairly omnivorous reader. I have a bit of everything.
When do you read?
Late at night usually, so kind of in the bath or just before I go to sleep. So I try and read maybe half an hour a day or an hour a day if I can. But it's tricky to find the time.
Yes, it is. It's that's about the same for me. I'm quite envious of my wife who gets to sit down in a chair and read during the day at some point. I think that looks a very luxurious thing to do. I usually have a long list of things.
I feel guilty if I did that.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Good. Well, I can only think of, I've read a women's fiction book recently, which wasn't really romance, but was not my normal genre, that a friend wrote. And I've read a Jilly Cooper because my wife was obsessed with Jilly Cooper. I don't know if she's still writing. She was obsessed with them. And I thought, I'm going to have to read one of these. They're doorstep books, but it was set in the world of the media, and it was very funny and incredibly rude. I thought I thoroughly disapproved of what happened to bread rolls when they were one side of the room and then ended up the other side of the room thanks to what can only describe as a part of the anatomy being used as a tennis racket. As the scene that's indelibly stayed in my mind. Campbell Black, I believe is his name, the gentleman with the aforementioned human appendage. Right, enough of that. Have we got anything else to say? Anything else to add to this smutty, more smut this episode? We got one complaint, by the way, last week.
Good. So I saw that. Yes, I thoroughly approved of that complaint.
Yes, it was you.
Yeah, it was me. No, I think that's pretty much it, really. So yeah, people should definitely check out the ads course because what closes in about a week when this goes out, and won't be up until next year, and it won't include the advanced stuff. So if you want to get that, it's the best time is to get that now.
Indeed, it is. If you go to selfpublishingformula.com/ads for authors, and don't forget, if you're a student of the 101 course, you get a good, healthy $100 discount on that course. Okay, that is it. Thank you very much indeed to our guests, the Female Billionaires, almost that themselves. And to you, Mark, in Salisbury, we will see you at the webinar live training. A reminder again, if you go to selfpublishingformula.com/reader funnel, all one word, you can sign up for that live training on the 11th of December. We'll see you live and in person on that night. But until then, it's a goodbye from him.
And a goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishingshow. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with the Self-Publishing Show.